Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to International Affairs. Today is a very special day as it is the 13th national elections as well as the referendum of this decade, which will decide who shall govern this nation, who shall govern almost a nation of 200 million people. Right now, by now, the voting polls are still being conducted and shall be conducted until 4:30 p.m. from across 42,000 polling stations with a strong security presence. I must remind you that voting is your right. But let us begin the discussion today inside the studio. We have a terrific panel today. Inside the studio, we have Sir John Dalton, who is, of course, our international consultant, joining us on this program on a very historical day. Today, Bengalis are now trying to understand who shall be their next leader. Alongside him, we have Barrister M. Sarwar Hussain, a senior jurist of the nation and has appeared on this show on multiple occasions. Through Zoom, we have Norman Floyd Barnes, our geopolitical correspondent from Washington, D.C. I want to begin with Norman. Of course, there are some news that is coming out, which includes the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu officially joining the Board of Peace. Of course, it was ahead of a meeting with the U.S. President Donald Trump in Washington, D.C., 7th of the time. And of course, Benjamin Netanyahu signed as a member of the board at the Blair House, the U.S. President's official guest residence, during a meeting with Secretary of State Marco Rubio. I want to begin with Norman Floyd Barnes regarding Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump's friendship and what is the future of the affairs of the two nations, and also how he is observing and he is realizing the Bangladeshi elections that are being held today.
Good morning. From Washington, it's 3 a.m. in the morning here in Washington, and the big news today is the election that's going on in Bangladesh. Everyone is watching. The Trump administration, China is watching, and the Prime Minister of Israel has just concluded a meeting with the president. That meeting involved discussions about how they're going to deal with the weapons and nuclear capabilities of Iran. And the instruction so far is that the prime minister must continue with his efforts to move towards a resolution. No military plans has been activated. The discussions and conversations requested by the White House is that the prime minister must come to some type of resolution with the Iranians, since the Iranians want to talk, they want to communicate about this situation, and hopefully peace will prevail. Highly unlikely, but the conversations is going on. As long as they're talking, we do not have any type of warfare going on. Same time here in the United States, we just passed a act called the SAFE Act, the SAVE Act, which requires the House just passed it. Is requires that the all U.S. citizens show proof of citizenship upon voting. This is an important part because of the midterms is coming up, and the Republican Party is hoping this act will curtail the amount of immigrants coming in to vote against them. So we playing this political ping pong here in the States as world events prevail, particularly right now. The biggest picture right now, the spotlight is on the results, hopefully in the next couple of days, of Bangladesh. It's a pivotal part of the South Asian economy. And like I said, China is watching very closely, and they are very interested because they feel that Bangladesh will be a future trade and commerce partner with them. At the same time, the United States is looking at strategic locations where they can have influence and impact, particularly in South Asia, as this process goes on. So today, we are waiting and watching, and hopefully praying that the outcome in Bangladesh will be positive.
Very important and clear updates from Norman Floyd Bunn. And I want to focus with almost a similar topic inside the studio. First, I'll go to Barrister M. Sarwar Hussain. Sir, welcome onto the program. As you were hearing Norman Floyd Burns, he understands the fact that China is watching, and he has deliberately created this issue where China is observing the elections here being held in Bangladesh. And very recently, the interim government has passed, and if not talked about, an agreement with the US regarding various issues, which of course includes garments as well as chemicals, machinery and motor vehicles, medical devices, etc. There's a huge exhaustive list. And they were seen to try to get this deal done before any kind of elected government were to come in. And of course, your observations for the 13th national elections that is happening today, and it's still continuing another 2 to 3 hours for voting.
Thank you very much. Thank you, the other guest in the discussion. Yes, today is the big day for Bangladesh. Bangladesh is witnessing an election, and I personally visited 2 or 3 polling stations. I find as this point of time is a very festive mood. People were deprived from participating in the election for the last 3 national elections. There were actually no election in the fascist regime. There was a farcical election and an arranged election, which people has rejected, and the turning out of the voter was very, very low. We see that all were arranged game, and as a result, the fascist has fallen. Now, this election has taken festive because of many reasons. The young generation, which constituted 60% of the voters, 4 crore voter did not get a chance to vote any time. The first time they are casting their vote. So there is a aspiration that Bangladesh will have rule of law, justice, democratic practice, accountability, and most importantly, a country free of corruption, free of extortion, free of discrimination. So that's why people has come out by all walks of life to cast their vote. I stay in Banani. I find there are a lot of rush for the voting. So in few hours, we'll come to know that where people has voted. I think this is a real democracy where some voter can vote at their free will without any intimidation, fear or pressure. So that the voter can choose their representative to the parliament, and parliament can be functional. In parliament there can be democracy practice, there can be debates. So this is by all accounts so far as on this time is good news we are hearing around. There was no big untoward incident reporting so far. So I think the people has got a real chance to vote and elect their representative. And this is a good step to march forward for the democracy. Bangladesh democracy is very fragile, very weak. We have not developed this culture that the losing party will really accept with good spirit the winning party. And in many times the losing party makes some excuses and bring allegations always. I don't know what will happen this time, how the losing party will react, and if the election is free, fair, so there is no reason that the losing party will not accept the election. So
Right.
People are looking forward to see the elections, that how the results are coming out. I hope it is established fact in Bangladesh that any election under any political parties is not free and fair. And all the time, if the election is under any other arrangement like caretaker government or the interim government is being fair and free. So this is under the interim government, and this election is going to be free and fair as we hope. So this is again a testimony that if the state want, if the political party accepts, so there can be good election in a fragile democracy like Bangladesh. So we are very keen and interestedly waiting as the events are unfolding, and after 10 p.m. of night, really the result will be start coming, and we will see that people whom they have chosen. So that will be very interesting, and I hope that this election should be free of violence and coercion, and aftermath of the election, the peace will remain. The peaceful environment shall exist, because there are history that after the election there are violences, more violences after the election, and a huge number of law enforcement agencies are deployed in the field and they are working professionally. Earlier, these law enforcement agencies were distracted by the fascist regime to work in their behalf. In today's election, the whole state mechanism is working very professionally so that the voting right can be casted at their own choice. So people will have the freedom to choose their representative the way they feel like. I think people is going to select. People are going to uphold the rule of law, justice, democracy, and most importantly, a society free of extortion, free of corruption, free of bribery, and most importantly, a society without discrimination. People will have their rights without intervention. So we are looking forward. Personally, I feel the parties which really can uphold a democratic society, a just society, a society where the rule of law will prevail, they should come up. This is my prayer and expectation. Thank you.
That was a brilliant observation by Barrister M. Sarwar Hossain regarding the history of Bangladesh voting systems, and of course, very important to understand how to remain free of extortion for a free and fair, exclusive election in which all parties will come to understand their roles and of course sit together at the parliament. So at this point, I want to ask John Dalton regarding this issue, but before I do so, I must also give some context. When we talk about Mr. Rahman, we're not sure which Rahman we are referring to. It could be Dr. Shafiqur Rahman, it could also be Mr. Tariq Rahman, who has landed in Bangladesh last December, on 25th December, and he said he has a plan. And of course, on that very day, I was comparing Mr. Tariq Rahman to the likes of Dr. King. And of course, me and Norman had a very distinctive analysis on that very day. I want to come to John Dalton. What is your aspirations? I know that for a fact that you have been working in Bangladesh for many years and you have experience observing elections not only here but also around the world. What are some of the implications that you find for Bangladesh? There are news that is coming out, maybe very small in the face of the festival-like feeling of election that is happening here. Some of the places the armed forces have intercepted those that they think that have broken electoral rules and standards they have been addressed with. And as for today, it is still going on. The vote counting shall ensue right after evening, and after the result is when people are going to understand who has won in this rat race.
Well, I think it's a wonderful statement that Sarwar has made about the aspirations for a peaceful election, free and fair. Let me just jump ahead a little bit and then I'll come back, okay? The next government is going to have their hands full with some very, very challenging issues in Bangladesh. The election is wonderful if it's festive and free and fair and so forth. But as soon as the 300 members and the 50 appointed women sit down in Parliament, regardless of what happens with the referendum, there are some very, very challenging issues that will confront them. Fiscal issues, education issues, health issues, the treatment of people with disabilities. I mean, this next several years is going to be extremely challenging for Bangladesh, and I hope that the people that are selected are up to the job. That's what I really hope for out of this election. The process is going forward. That's wonderful. We have to commend the interim government for setting the conditions that they wanted a festive occasion. They wanted everybody to be not just free and fair. They got the election commission behind them. The army is behind them with 100,000 troops deployed. So I'm hoping that there's nothing that can be said to interrupt the process of the election. I think it's really going to, however, the people are finally going to have a chance to speak. And the parties that are going to be contesting this, in addition to China, I think India is an active observer of the scene as well. And so for me, I want to look at what happens in the three divisions on the west coast, if you will, the Rangpur Rajshahi Khulna band that abuts India. I think the vote there is going to be very, very indicative of whether the people they're voting for protecting against some sort of incursion,
Right.
whether it's religion or technical, or whether they're hoping for some rapprochement with India. So the party that gets elected there, I think, is going to tell us a lot about how people feel about the relationship with India. China clearly has an interest. I also want to point out that I think that one of the things that has happened over the last couple of months is that the future government has been boxed in a little bit by deals and arrangements that are going to be very, very difficult to unwind. I mean, everybody is happy about reducing the tariff from 20% to 19%, but that's chump change. That really isn't very, very important. And it creates much more problems for Bangladesh going forward in terms of trade and industry. So they're going to have to figure out how to deal with the influx of open market, if you will, into Bangladesh in a competitive sense. That's going to be a key issue in my part.
Of course, important analysis coming from John Dalton in the studio. This has been the first segment of International Affairs today. I am proud to say that even while the program is called International Affairs, we are talking about an event in Bangladesh which has internationally been very significant as of today. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to take a short break. After the break, we will dive deep into the nitty-gritty of this election.
বাংলাদেশ থেকে সিঙ্গাপুরে পণ্য বুকিং এর জন্য যোগাযোগ করুন ঢাকা সহ দেশের যে কোনো ৮০টি শাখা কেন্দ্রে। এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস, আপনার সেবা সব সময়।
Welcome, Grand Palace Hotel, Dhaka. A majestic lobby blending timeless elegance with modern design. Experience 5-star comfort in suites and rooms. Sophisticated fine dining restaurant. Crystal clear swimming pool for ultimate relaxation. Modern gym and serene spa for well-being. Perfect venue for corporate events, weddings and parties. Seamless and secured. Elegant and eye-catching design. Indulge, relax, discover the first 5-star chain hotels in Bangladesh. Grand Palace Hotel Dhaka, 22 Kakrail, Dhaka, Bangladesh.
Welcome to Grand Club at Mirpur 10 Dhaka. Elegant spa and wellness facility for ladies and gents. Play pool and snooker in international standard billiard zone. World-class gym facility with exclusive equipment for man and woman. A restaurant of delicious local and international cuisine. Fully air-conditioned building with spacious banquet, car lift, sky view rooftop restaurant, all in one. Grand Club Limited, Mirpur 10.
ভালোবাসা একবার তুমি বউ কইয়া ডাকো।
হ্যাঁ গো,
আর কত দূর?
আরে আমি তো ফিডার গাড়ির লগে।
তো
তোমার গরু হাঁস মুরগি মাছ তো অনশন শুরু কইরা দিছে।
কি কও অনশন শুরু কইরা দিছে
কেডা?
হাঁস মুরগি মাছ
আরে ওগো মতি গতি দেখা মনে হইতাছে এসএফি ছাড়া কিছুই খাইবো না।
হ্যাঁ গো এসএফিটার খবর ওরা জানলো কেমনে?
আরে ভালো জিনিসের খবর ছড়াতে কি আর মাইক লাগে? খবর ভাসে বাতাসে বাতাসে।
আরে দেখো এসএফিটার জাদু
সম্পূর্ণ নিজস্ব তত্ত্বাবধানে বিশেষজ্ঞদের সমন্বয়ে প্রস্তুত হয় এসএ ফিডের পশু খাদ্য। অত্যাধুনিক প্রযুক্তিতে তৈরি এই পশু খাদ্য যেমন নিরাপদ তেমনি স্বাস্থ্যকর। এসএ ফিড
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back on International Affairs. Of course, we are talking about the affair of Bangladesh today, the 13 national elections and referendum to understand whether people will support with a yes or support with a no. Of course, if they do show that everyone is favoring the yes, there shall be huge constitutional reforms coming out. I want to give a breaking news that is coming out on social media is that the seniors of the Election Commission have said the turnout has reached 32.88% by noon, according to various multimedia and media outlets on social media. I want to have the following question to Norman Floyd Barnes. There was some incidences as of yesterday with contestants being captured by the security forces in some kind of a monetary transaction, trying to move around cash, and that has been addressed at the media here in Bangladesh. I want to understand this Chinese friendship that you kept on saying. Of course, China has a lot of investment in Bangladesh, even in previous governments. So one must understand how the new government is going to understand its international posturing with nations such as India, as mentioned by John Dalton in the studio. So I want to begin with Norman once again. Do you believe that some of these issues that come up, we have a refugee crisis of the Rohingyas every year, there is soil erosion happening in the coastal areas, coastal belt lines. Inflation has reached an all-time high just before a month of Ramadan. And of course, as I, alongside neighborhood communities here in Gulshan, also believe that decentralization of many of the aspects would cause economic turnout to go into a better standing. So I want to know more from Norman Floyd Barnes. What are your aspirations for Bangladesh?
Thank you for that question. My aspiration for this young and prosperous country is to continue to develop itself by having a recognized government, a recognized leader. It will open up many doors in terms of international conversations about trade, commerce, and basically its place in the world. The young population, the tremendous young population that Bangladesh has, is going to have a tremendous effect on the future. As I read, there was some 5 million new voters coming into the system. That is going to have a tremendous effect on the process and the government for many, many years to come. So with that said, with the advent of the Gen Zs, the communications through artificial intelligence in the world. So we're looking at a totally new frontier, how things going. Once the country is legitimized as a nation with a legitimate leader, you will see an influx of suitors coming in: China, India, United States, European unions, the African nation, and other parts of APAC. This is more than just an election. This is basically what we call a coming out party, basically showing that Bangladesh, because of they have a very you have a very densely populated country, I believe the 8th most populous country in the world. Tremendous workforce ability, tremendous movement in terms of flexibility, communications, association with different countries, association with different parts of Gen Zs around the world. This is going to have a tremendous impact on how the world views South Asia, not just Bangladesh. I'm looking for Bangladesh to emerge as a leader, not a participant of the process. because of its location, because of its coming out abilities with a new referendum, a new constitution, a new parliament. It gives the world a time to reset and look at, hopefully, how do we do this democratic process in a manner that is equitable, uh, safe, uh, corruption is removed, and opportunities for the world to see we can do this, we can participate. Let Bangladesh serve as a blueprint, a map, a guide on how we can be peaceful and also prosperous. We want to basically want
Right.
them to be wealthy. We looking at I feel that Bangladesh has the possibility of a very wealthy country and a very impactful country in terms of activities in South Asia and also as a mediator between the East and the West. That's how I look at it.
Of course, important observation by Norman Floyd Barnes, and I picked out some of the stories based from his observations. We can do a compare and contrast with the past and whatever that is taking place today. We see the interim head, the chief advisor Muhammad Yunus, also coming to the voting center to cast his vote. As the same center, Mr. Tariq Rahman is also there, but historically way back in 2014, 2018 and also very recently 2024, we've seen that the votes has been casted the night before. It usually on popular discussion debates, it has been known as the night vote and how the fascist regime has kept its hold on power. But compared it to today, there is a higher turnout, and of course people are taking to social media saying that some have voted for the first time, even while they are of the age of 30. Of course, the minute you become an adult, after 18, you are ready to be voting as a young voter for the nation. And this time around, a difference has caused importance on global scale. We have voting for those who are active in other nations, the migrant population, those who have left their homeland and is trying to make it big in other nations in the Middle East, which most Bengalis over there are also having the chance to vote this time around. I want to ask Barrister M. Sarwar Hussain, the involvement of this migrant population that lives outside, how important do you think it is, especially because right now one can definitely understand the ousted regime and its party has been defunct to a certain degree and has been questioned and has been declared illegal, and all of its activities has been suspended. And even in the neighborhood that they belong to in Gopalganj, as a history says, people are saying that there have not been any kind of turnout. So I want to understand your compare and contrast with 2018's election, 2018 election, and what you are seeing today.
Not only 2018 elections, 3 elections were spoiled. This is absolutely manipulated. The election 2014, 2018 and 2024. Look, it has got a historical background. Though Awami League led the war of liberation, but right after the liberation, they failed to establish democracy, rule of law and justice. The party basically dominated by their relatives, sons and daughters. So, instead of rule of law, a crony capitalism has developed, and wherever the dynasty politics prevailed, and one of the offshoot of dynasty politics is crony capitalism.
Crony capitalism, yes.
Anywhere this dynasty rule has gone, nobody could avoid the crony capitalism. The reason the Suharto failed, Saddam Hussein failed, and any dynasty politics you said. So the legacy developed by Awami League in 70 to 75, and the last nail in the coffin was Bakshal, introducing on party system.
Right.
And the impression they developed in 71 to 75, they never tried to remedy that impression. They never bothered. They have only in their mind the party in favor of liberation and anti-liberation. This liberation and anti-liberation has destroyed them. They could not control any of their relatives. So ultimately, they have collapsed. And nowhere in the world happened like that. That whole family has fled away. Today, I heard a audio message of this fallen Sheikh Hasina, this fascist Sheikh Hasina. She said that nobody should go for casting the vote. And she has established democracy. You see the level of lying, level of not understanding the reality. Before fleeing, she said that she wanted to go to Kotalipara, Tungipara, and she has been forced to go to India. Is the fact? No way, nobody can trust it, because before 2 days of fall, before 2 days of 5th August, she issued a warning to her relatives to flee away, that everybody should flee away. So she knew everything. So she is never repented and never realized her position. So Awami League is the biggest problem in Bangladesh for development and for the democracy. So with that legacy, the other party sometimes has to follow the suit. That's why the democracy has never taken the real route. Now they believe whatever they feel like they will do, they will by their sweet will, and there is no question of good governance, rule of law and justice. They think that this is their paternal property. So people has given the response. And one thing has established, whenever the people get the chance, get the opportunity, they really judge. They never fail to judge correctly. So in this election, they will judge correctly. Because at the end of the day, the people have their real perception and they vote accordingly. So this legacy is a failed legacy. That's why in Bangladesh, nowhere in the world that in the history of 55 years, the 6th time the revolution has taken place. That means the some party comes in the name of democracy and they turn autocrat. Like what Hitler did, or what Mussolini did. They came in the cover of democracy, but they turned state autocracy. So that's why, as you said, that the plebiscite is very important. Our constitution must be amended that the constitution facilitate to create the autocracy, because all the power lies with the prime minister. There is no balance of power between the president, prime minister and the parliament. There is no democracy. So the party becomes one-man party, the parliament becomes the one-man parliament, and all power vested on the prime minister. So anybody is their prime minister, he or she is bound to become autocrat. So balance of power is very important. You see that American constitutional framework, they have given 4 years time for the tenure of the presidency,
right,
and not more than 2 terms. When Barack Obama retired from 2nd term, he has so much of physical fitness that he went for the water ski. So that reflects his fitness. Had it been Bangladesh, he could say it, his followers, his slaves could say that you are so much of physically fit, let's continue. So American constitution didn't allow that. It is the constitution, it is the systems which will really prevent a autocrat to rise, a autocrat to create. The Bangladesh constitution sometimes in favor of creating an autocracy. So that's why the plebiscite is very important. Right. And Awami League has come out covertly, vote for no. And many other party, maybe covertly they have said vote for no. That will be another disaster. That means you are indirectly supporting the autocrats. You are supporting the fascist. So that's why people of Bangladesh will really choose whether they will go for yes or no. Yes should come, I believe, because it is the change which people believe in. Right. The change must be taken place to uphold the honor and degree of the sacrifice. So much of sacrifice, so much of injuries, so many thousands people lost their eyes. If there is no vote winning, that will be betrayal on the demand of this 5th August.
Of course.
So I think it is the people who always make the right decision. If Bangladesh really wants to take off, Bangladesh must follow the democratic process.
Of course.
There is no alternative. And another very important thing, that the political parties should reform themselves. The reforms should start within the political parties. Political parties should be democratic, and accountability should be upheld in the political party. If political party wants to curb corruption, 80% corruption curb in the political front, and 20% will be taken over by this SEC and all other organizations. Right. So the main responsibility to uphold the spirit of 5th August lies with the political parties, whoever is coming to power. And as my friend John said, there are a lot of challenges. Really, there are a lot of challenges. Whether this upcoming government can meet up the people expectation, can go with the rule of law, can really control their supporters, control their leaders, that is the big challenge. And it will be also a challenge that the top leader can really set example of transparency, accountability, especially can remain free of corruption. Corruption held in two accounts, from the government plant and for the private sector. Right. If the government increase the electricity bill, gas bill, water bill, and in the name of project, if the project estimation is multiplied 4 times, that is the biggest corruption, biggest extortion. That spoils the people's money in a huge way. This any project, the estimation should be like $1 lakh, and that makes 4 lakhs, 4 times, 10 times sometimes. That is the biggest extortion, which general people sometimes doesn't understand. This official extortion to the private extortion. Somebody is doing a small shop and he has to bribe someone. Why a country should have
this kind of system?
Yes.
So a nation should not have this kind of system.
The rule of law, and there we hope that the one Rahman, Shafiqur Rahman, is preaching for the rule of law, and the other Rahman came from London and stayed 17 years in London. He has seen how a political party is being conducted, activities, how the political party remains without corruption, how the political party's member can be taken into the accountability. And he has seen the Westminster democracy. I hope if he is elected, he will uphold what he has seen 17 years staying in London. And if this other Rahman, Shafiqur Rahman ways, their place is to rule of law. So we'll be waiting to see that how this upcoming government is really ensure a country, a just society, free of corruption, rule of law, free of extortion, and must practice the democratic norms and values. Of course. That the people of Bangladesh is looking forward.
Of course, that was a very in-depth breakdown of what are the aspirations of the common Bengalis from Barrister M. Sarwar Hussain. Of course, let me remind all of our viewers and the panelists that are watching us today, there are active dictatorships around the world. One of them is definitely North Korea, in which a family has been running that nation for as long as I have seen history from that region, ever since the two Koreas have separated. Of course, how long were the British in power? More than 300 years in this region. And I know for a fact that this Westminster-style parliament and so-called democracy is, of course, a rule out of their playbook. So I want to come to John Dalton. As you were hearing Barrister Sarwar Hussain talk about some of these issues of crony capitalism, and if we forget that these kind of extortion, this kind of like small businesses, as Sarwar sir has said, that they'd have to pay up to even stay operational. These things do not align with the motive, with the vibes of the July Charter as well as July 36th, what the movement, the platform that has caused this revolution government to come in as an interim structure. So it's important to understand, because fascism shall not be entertained, whether in the past, now, and in the future. How do you break down these issues?
Well, let me go back to what Norman had to say, which was a very, very positive foundation for growth and progress in a revived, a new type of Bangladesh. With all due respect, I mean, I think that all of these problems that were in the past, mentally, psychologically, we have to leave them in the past if Bangladesh is going to change. If we fixate on all of the things that were wrong before, all of the things that didn't work, yada, 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 this is the coffee shop Bangladesh mentality. Yeah. Everything is wrong, nothing works, oh, we're going to fail, blah, blah, blah. I think we have to sort of put that aside, put it in our pocket someplace and say, okay, that's the way things used to be. But things are never going to be better if we fixate on all of those kind of problems. So let's talk about a couple of key issues, if I may.
Sure.
You recall that under the situation that we have now with the referendum, the 180 days following the election, Parliament will function as a constituent assembly to try to take all of the issues that were not specifically identified in the referendum and deal with them with some specific laws that need to be passed. Constitutional requirements of Article 142 of the Bangladeshi Constitution requires a two-thirds vote in Parliament, a vote approval of the President, and a referral to a Parliament. So they're going to have to be very, very clear about what are the most important issues that have to be addressed there. The
Right.
people may have to be called back again to another referendum on issues like this. And there's nothing wrong with that. The more people get participating, the better off things are going to be. So the referendum, which has some legal issues and there's some problems with it for sure, it actually has spelled out a lot of the things that need to be thought through by the sitting Parliament. And I think that's extremely important in terms of how we approach this. But I also want to say something that just maybe I hope nobody takes offense. Rule of law, democracy, integrity, anti-corruption, you can't eat that. 25% of the Bangladeshi population is living in poverty. So focus on what needs to be done for the people, not what are the slogans that we need to put in place in order to make sure we have the appearance of democracy. Democracy means 3 meals at least on the table. It means a job for your kid. It means things that work in Bangladesh. It doesn't mean just the appearance of some system of government, whether it's the Westminster system or the presidential system. Bangladesh has to change the way they think about government. It's not politics. Government is governing, serving, making the people have an opportunity and a chance. That's not going to happen if people fixate on politics and slogans. Do your job, my famous friend Bill Belichick would say. Do your job. Focus on the people that need help. Okay? Forget about the past. Stop complaining. Move on.
Very important and very
That's,
decisive.
I'm not a politician, but I felt
course.
I felt impelled to
Very-
say something about the fact that there's 25% of the population living in poverty. You know, I've been around to the rural areas in Bangladesh. Things are not like Dhaka. This is an extreme exception to the rule. Something has to be done about making life easier and simpler for all of those people who are living in poverty, for the 49% of the women who are not giving equal rights. This has to change. Not just we have speeches and all of that. No, you have to change your mindset in order to make sure that Bangladesh has a future. I'm sorry, Pankaj.
No. You don't have to be sorry because this stage is an open platform to express opinions and, of course, debate ideas. I really enjoy how both my guests, Barrister M. Sarwar Hussain and, of course, Sir John Dalton in the studio has broken down the 13 national elections and a referendum. There is a small news that I want to bring out. Independent candidate Tasneem Zara, Dr. Tasneem Zara, has called for Election Commission intervention over obstructing polling agents. These news articles and segments will be all over the internet today, as it is an important tool to understand the vibe of the people. And I must also thank Norman Floyd Barnes from District of Columbia, Washington in the United States for providing his views on the Bangladesh election that is happening today. Alongside, I want to finish on this note that 12th February is also known as the International Day for the Prevention of Violent Extremism and when conducive to terrorism. The world pauses to honor these efforts and recommit to building peaceful and resilient societies for future generations. I believe that is a very important and significant day when looked at with the 13th national elections being held here in Bangladesh. That's it for today, ladies and gentlemen. I shall catch you all on Sunday.